So I've got lots of oil on the floor. It's been leaking for about a year now. I've had my Landy for over a year, and every time I go and park it, there's always a drip of oil, and I've done the rocker cover, a few different bits and pieces here and there, and I think it's going to be the sump seal. So as well as doing a service, I'm going to do that today. So it's that time again. Service is due. Been about 7 months since I last changed the oil and oil filter, and about a year since I did the fuel filter and air filter. So I bought all those bits and pieces, some new oil as well. And while I'm there, I'm going to do the lovely job of the sump seal as well. I'm going to go under there and replace the seal. I'm going to use the RTV sealant rather than a gasket, and take it all off and try not to get too oily. Unfortunately, it's one of those jobs that you just get covered. So got my overalls on, should be pretty good, and got my tea ready and music, and gonna see how we go. I've got a tarpaulin under here to catch anything, and also to keep me from getting too dirty, and all the bits that I take off too dirty as well. So makes it a little bit nicer to slide out underneath, and yeah, should be good really. I've obviously been to the shop today, just got a Brit part service kit. I change it so regularly, I thought just go for a cheaper one, and then I've got the 15 W40 oil there as well. Just car plan silicone sealant for the gasket, has to withstand oil obviously. Yeah, should be pretty good. First things first, you need to go on a drive, warm the engine up, get the oil all fluid and everything ready to empty. Got my oil catch can here, you can do it back up and then dispose of it responsibly, which is good. Just going to go under there and drain it all out. So while that's draining out, I'm going to go on the top and get my jerry can of diesel out. So there you go, got that down, nice and full up, handy to have that. So there's the fuel filter, that's what we're doing next. It's good to have the diesel spare off the roof so we can fill the new one back up and throw this one away, because it's going to have crud and dirt over the last year. And it's good to prime it back up again to the top so it doesn't have air in the system and collect anything. So let's do that. There's our oil drained out. Just gonna put this on here, let that go in there as well, like a little concoction. There you go. Looking not great, it's only a year old, but the inside's still really clean, so that's good. But just good to change it anyway. Nice, there you go. There you go. Something to open it with. You've got your washers there to tighten up when you do the sump seal again. Air filter, fuel filter and oil filter. Let's have a look at those now. So there's the oil. Pretty classic. White this time. I like black things, but never mind. Put that back in there. That's what we're doing next, the fuel filter. Same as the other one. The other one was Brit part as well. There you go. That's fresh, clean on there. Nice. And then, oh, I see. I guess that's it there. Lovely. So there you go. Air filter. Easy peasy. The old one was looking alright, but a little bit dirty. Nice. Next up is moving this first. Cool. That smells. And then get the diesel to prime the fuel filter. There you go. Fill it up there. Good to just give it a wipe off. Just give that a wipe off. So I used oil to do the seal because the diesel doesn't
eat through the oil quite as well as it does the grease, so I chose to go with oil instead, and then grease on the oil filter seal to make sure that it doesn't eat through it and it comes off next time.
So next up, nice and easy, just the air filter now. It doesn't get you all dirty and oily, which is nice. It's pretty easy to replace. Comes with these new washers here to fit it. The logo on nicely, and then I might just put a bit of grease on this seal just to keep it watertight, but I think it'll be good without, but we'll see what it looks like when I go in.
So there you go, there's the old washers there, should just peel off pretty easily. 1 and 2, and you get the new ones with the kit, so good to replace those. Old one's looking quite dirty there, as you can see. It's to be expected. I did knock some dirt out of it a few months ago, put some grease on here, so it's looking a bit better than it was, but you know, a year in, a bit of off-roading, quite a lot of dirt, it's good to get it replaced really, so let's put the new one in. Just going to clean up that end bit in there, just to make sure that it all seals up nicely. Make sure there's not too much dirt in there. Protect the turbo and all. Nice and simple job this one really, but is easily avoided and can make a big difference. I feel like this car was neglected in terms of servicing in its history, in its last 22 years, but it's good to treat it as it should be when you get one, so that's what my feeling is and that's what I'm doing. Next up, cup of tea. Quite an easy job. You just pour the tea in the mug and put it to your face. Probably one of the hardest actually, I can imagine. Cheers.
So, oil filter next. Don't love doing this job very much because when you take the old one off, you get quite a bit of oil on you, but see how we do today. Try not to get too much oil all over my hands and down my arms into my armpits and on my t-shirt and my face, so yeah, let's give it a try. It's down there, as you can see it, accessible from the bottom, and you probably, depending on when it was last done, need the tool for it, which is like a band like this. So just like that, just a band, and it just grips around there. You pull it tight and then it uses this to twist it. This is quite a good one. I've seen a lot of different ones with chains, like bicycle chains, and that grips it. You use a ratchet, but this is the one I've got and the one that works, and yeah, let's see how it goes.
So you most definitely want to put a bit of grease on here. People use oil, but I think grease is probably a bit better. The oil won't eat through it either. Grease goes on here, and it means, as you'll see, it comes off easily, because when I bought this, I reckon it hadn't been changed in a long time, and it was very difficult. I had to stick a screwdriver through it before I got that tool. Got oil all over me, ruined some of my clothes, and wasn't fun at all. So just making sure it's not done up too tight, and also changing it regularly. So getting this out is hard enough, trying to get a good shot of it's even more difficult. So it's up above the diff, so all the oil that comes out of it will drain onto the diff. But so the quicker you can get it out and onto your draining board, then good, basically. And let it empty into your waste. Easy peasy. That came out so nicely because I'd not done it up too tight and greased it last time. Hopefully you can just about see that. It's all greased up nicely and just screws up there. You have to account when you put the oil back in that you've got the oil filter as well, and usually if you look at guides online they'll tell you how much it is. Maybe I'll put a figure in the description or on the video here, and that will show you how. So just nicely tight up there, and it will come off quite easily next time.
So that's basically the servicing bit done. Fuel filter, air filter, oil filter, empty the oil out, and then now I've put the oil back in. Nice, but this time I'm going to take the sump off, so it looks like it's a 11mm. So I get an extension here. I'm going to go down there, check it, but also going to take the wading plug out of the crankcase, so we'll see how we go.
So you can see all here on the sump, it's like fresh oil all around here, all around. You can see where the sump's leaking And I think, as I've done quite a few other fixes on the other bits of the engine, I reckon the sump's the last thing to do, and that should fix most of the drips you see on the floor, really. So down here you'll see the crankcase breather. It's good to just open that up, see if there's any oil in that, get that out as well. And then all the way around there's a lot of these small bolts. I think they're 11s, I'll check them in a minute, but just go around, loosen them all off, and try not to get too much oil in my face. Let's see how we go.
All the bolts underneath cracked off really nicely. Some were much tighter than others, but this is definitely worth doing. The bolts are quite long, so I thought I'd just chuck an 11mm on here, swap this out, and then just do them all the rest of the time, all the rest of the way with this. It's much quicker. Just cracked it off with a screwdriver. It just came off really easily, fell off really nicely. You can see a little bit of oil left in there, and this is the old sealant, pretty much non-existent. So clean this up, get new sealant on there. And did find a few bits of metal in there, which is always a bit worrying, but it's fine. It's absolutely caked in dirt, absolutely caked. Inside's obviously fine. We'll just degrease that a little bit, get the oil out, but take the sealant off the top, and then obviously of the underneath of the engine as well, using just a Stanley scraper and then a bit of sandpaper as well. We're going to place that on this blanket here, cover it in diesel, give it a brush, and then also put diesel in here with all the bolts and see if we can clean those up a little bit as well. I'll try and get it all cleaned up now, 7 o'clock, obviously it's summer, but try and get it back on with the sealant and done tonight, and then oil it tomorrow. After a little bit of different types of diesel and wire brush and wet and dry and degreaser and brushes and brushing and scraping, you get to this, which is looking a lot better. This side not quite so good, but the bit that matters sort of more back to normal now, and will seal a lot nicer. And hopefully these bolts that are in there are going to be nice and clean as well. And I'm going to go and clean up the engine now, and then put the sealant on here, mount it back up again.
So I'm just going to be using this multi-purpose silicone sealant, cast tight by Carplan, and just do a bead around here, staying on the inside of the bolts like that, and then just squeezing it along, making sure it's going to be nice and sealed. Looks nice and clean now. Just goes in the gun, you know, one of these.
Just shook them around for a bit, shook them so hard I broke the jar, but did the job. Obviously all the wax oils come off, but hopefully going to do a under seal with Southwest rust proofing soon, so these are looking really nice. So here you can see the old sealant squashed up against there, look, and all the dirt here. You can see it's been pressed where the bolts are, and I reckon that's where the oil was getting in here, floating around the bolts and then coming out through the bolts, because you can see it dripping like this, like that there, through the bolts. And so now I'm just going to get the Stanley scraper and scrape all these top bits off and clean it off with some degreaser as best as I can, and then get it back on. So there you go, that's all scraped off. Tiny bit of residue there, but it's all flat now, actually looking better along there. And now the sump will meet up really nicely. Let's go and take it over to the truck now without getting it all over myself or anything in it or anything on my face like normal. I'm sure I'm covered. Right, so now we need to meet it up, get the bolts matched up as well, and tighten it up and mount it. So there you go, you can see all the bolts back in. Just use my electric screwdriver to put them back in, and then tighten them up with the socket set. So all in, tightened up, and looking much cleaner than it was before. Hopefully now we'll hold the oil back and stop it from leaking over everything. So welcome to the next day. Got our oil out here, 15W40 supplied by Brookwell's, local firm, really good. hopefully the seals all dried up now. Left it quite a long time, looked at a lot of advice online and need to use it, so gonna top it back up and hopefully there'll be no leaks. Just needs to take, I think it's 6.85, 6.65 including the oil filter, and these are 5 each. So just chuck a hole in these and then try and measure it down the side on how much to put back in. But that's what I'm going to do now, and turn it over and make sure it's all working nicely. So now it's time to turn it over. I'm going to turn it over straight away and let it hopefully turn over, not dry run, but hopefully turn over without starting. Hopefully get some oil into the filter and such like. So I just went down underneath and I saw a drip coming out, and thankfully as well I overspilt and it's dripping down the block. Phew. Thought it was leaking already, that'd be bad. So looking good at the moment, just let it turn over for a little bit. But that's pretty good. Go and take it for a test drive in a minute and come back and see what it's like. We've been on a trip today and did about 30 or more miles, and it was obviously smooth, new oil, very nice, but every time I went and parked anywhere, I checked underneath here. It's a bit dirty and muddy, so I can't really check here. But when I was on tarmac, there was no spillage, no leaks, no nothing, and I'm gonna go underneath in a minute and make sure there's no drips at all. But I think that was a success, and a bit of a mucky job, but worth doing, and I've needed to do it for a year, so really happy with that, and the list gets shorter.